Hi, I'm Tim Austin. I specialise in visual learning development for communication, e-learning, blended learning and the development of facilitated resources. I'm going to briefly show you some of the visual learning techniques I found useful for communication and learning delivery. One of the more powerful techniques I use is to establish a visual environment that represents key learning outcomes. In this example, a complete economy is visualised. As the video zooms into areas in the environment, there's a discussion on specific industries. The video then pulls out to show how industries are connected together and more general economic principles. This way, the general learning outcomes are discussed when the overall environment is shown, and the specific learning outcomes attached to individual industries are discussed when zooming into the detail. By using a visual environment, you can add layers of visual information while still maintaining overall context. This is a great way to deliver project proposals, project inductions, business strategy, or even to provide a company or country profile. Another excellent visual tool is a linear narrative that builds up elements one step at a time in a way that's engaging to the learner. In this example, a storyline builds up, then concludes with a visual summary that outlines the main learning outcomes. Using this technique brings about a high level of visual recall for the learner. This type of treatment works really well as a standalone communication delivered through online media, or an introduction that precedes more detailed information, theory, or assessment activities. I enjoy working closely with subject matter experts and often will create a flexible visual narrative. In this facilitated presentation, I created visuals that individual firefighters can use to tell their own stories based on local experience. The visuals need to be designed so they act as a prompt for the stories to be told. This allows for a high level of customization of content by the facilitator without having to change the visual presentation. Having a customizable narrative is very useful if facilitators need to adjust their delivery for a specific location or group of people. Another popular visual tool is the branching scenario. These learning tools rely on learner interaction to determine an outcome, and the visuals are used to convey key information that the learner can base their decisions on. This type of development is very effective where the learner needs to recognise the choices that they make have both positive or negative consequences, and it's a great way for them to explore different outcomes based on choices. Often in facilitated environments, you need to confirm comprehension before proceeding to the next stage in the learning. I've always found build-up visuals achieve a great outcome as you can pace the timing of delivery for each key element of learning. In this example, we needed to get community consent to an overall strategy. Using build-up graphics enables a community leader to convey information one piece at a time, confirm comprehension and consent before proceeding to the next step in the presentation. This type of communication is very effective when there's the need to simplify and communicate complex issues such as business planning, project proposals, community consent, environmental impact statements, or any type of strategic communication. This example of a case study builds up events that lead to a catastrophic explosion. By visually reconstructing each step in the lead up to the disaster, we draw the learner's attention to the critical mistakes made before the explosion happens. In the workplace, the visual case study will act as a constant reminder of what can go wrong if proper process is not followed, and this will influence their behaviour when making decisions. Short and sharp case studies can be used as a component of larger learning activities, or can be very useful when sent out as individual learning objects through diverse channels such as email, websites, mobile phones and tablet devices. In this example of a scenario, an interaction between staff is presented that leads to an undesirable outcome. The endeavour is to have the learner pause, think about how the scenario relates to their own experience, and then apply critical thinking to a task associated with the scenario. This type of visual storytelling is particularly useful for soft skills delivery, where critical analysis and interpretation form a large part of the learning outcomes. A technique I've found to be useful in blended learning environments is incorporating visual triggers. In this example, e-learning is undertaken prior to facilitated sessions. Theory is presented online, and at the end of each topic the learner is presented with a cartoon associated with the learning outcome. These cartoons are introduced again in the facilitated environment and act as a visual trigger to recall the theory presented in the e-learning. This makes the facilitated sessions far more efficient and fosters higher levels of collaboration. A big part of what I do is develop visual learning for hard skills delivery, in particular processes such as software tutorials. I always find it useful to frame the training with an explanation as to how the process reflects organisational strategy and why the process is important. This comes prior to the tutorials and helps learners identify how a process fits within a larger system. It's also a good idea to incorporate graphics within software tutorials so that learners can not only see how a process works, but also have a visual map of the overall process. This interactive example provides a self-paced option for releasing information on a complete process. When developing hard skills training, many of our target learners have lower text-based literacy levels. When designing visuals, I minimise the text component as much as possible and rely on a combination of visuals and narration to carry the learning. The basic rule for visual learning design is the simpler it is, the better it works. This video has shown a few examples of visual learning techniques and how they can be used. It's not an extensive list of techniques, but hopefully it shows the benefits of using a visual approach for communication and learning delivery. I'll be posting short videos on visual learning techniques regularly. If you want to be notified when a new video is being published, visit my website and jump on the subscribers list.